It's a pretty sweet bike. All right, so here we are. It's me and John.
Ben, it's good to see you again, my friend. Welcome
John,
back.
sir. Yep.
Yeah.
So John and I are roommates, friends, and ex-classmates. We just graduated with our master's degree in clinical psychotherapy, concentration, contemplative psychotherapy, and Buddhist psychology. So congratulations, John.
Yeah. You know, I'm $250,000 in debt, and I'm not going to suffer about it.
Attaboy. He learned a little something, perhaps.
$250,000 never hurt anybody.
So today we want to talk about suffering, because really, isn't that what life's about? You know, we live day after day, and sometimes life just sucks. Sometimes things don't go our way. Sometimes we're in mental, physical, emotional, spiritual anguish. And it's easy to go into really dark places, you know, clinical depression, anxiety, or other sort of, you could say, personality disorders. All sorts of weird shit can happen in life, and all sorts of flavors of suffering can happen. So, especially approaching this from both the Western psychotherapeutic lens as well as the contemplative Eastern Buddhist lens, the question is, what do we do about this whole suffering thing? Because, you know, are we just doomed to experience a life that is painful and tough and confusing, or is there a way out? So the Buddha said, it's actually a quote from the Buddha, I teach one thing and one thing only, and that is suffering and the end of suffering. And actually just hearing myself say that, that's actually two things. So so the Buddha teaches two things, is suffering and the end of suffering. So the whole Buddhist path is actually a blueprint to understand the mind, or how we create our experience, and that includes the experience of suffering. And then from there, how we can, again, create an experience that is free of suffering and maybe replace it with something that is much more pleasant, beautiful, expansive, meaningful, all of that. So from the Buddhist lens, I'm just going to start off by saying suffering is actually an illusion. It's not really real. And although it feels real, the Buddhists would say there is a distinct difference between what we feel, what we see, what appears to us, and what is really real. And when they say that, they are basically pointing to the fact that our suffering is constructed by us for us, in the sense that, let's use an example. So my girlfriend breaks up with me. Okay, maybe there's some sadness of not having the person I love around, but at the same time, we can create infinitely more suffering when I say, oh, because she's not around, that means I'm worthless, I'm not enough, I'll never find love, she was perfect and I'll never get that back. These are stories I made that then I can project onto a breakup that make the situation so much more painful. So that's just one example to illustrate how we create our suffering. And another one is lack of money. I don't have a lot of money, but I wish I did. And it's the fact that I resist the fact that I don't have as much money as I want that actually creates the suffering. Look at Jesus or the Buddha or Indian saints, mystics, sadhus, whatever. They wander around with nothing. With generally, I mean, Jesus and the Buddha, I would say a pretty high quality of life, but yet they own nothing. So really, do I need that much to be happy? Or am I making myself suffer by wishing I had more, instead of letting go of that and sinking into really the bliss of God's green earth? So that's how we're gonna start it. John, what do you think?
Man, I don't know where to go with that, brother.
I mean, I can keep riffing if you want, but
No, please, no more riffing. So I'll just, I guess, I'll shoot out my understanding of it. Suffering is the means by which we survive as an entity. And suffering is like the guardrails that keep us from doing stuff that kills us.
Well, is there?
and keeps us doing things
I
that keep us alive.
I want to point out, is there? Because like, okay, if you put your hand in a fire and it hurts, great. That's a good message to pull the hand out of the
Yeah.
fire. But is there a difference between pain and suffering? Because that's painful. Suffering is different.
Yes. I think there is a distinction we could make experientially between pain and suffering. Yeah. I think the signals that you interpret as pain could be experienced without suffering. So you could know like, oh, that's bad and not suffer it.
How do we do that?
That's possible. You got to be a really badass hardcore. You got to work hard to make that distinction, and you would probably have to apply it with some kind of discipline. Like you'd have to assert it over what is automatic.
Yeah.
Suffering is automatic for us.
And that takes, I think, enduring those painful experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When, like, for instance, you put your hand in the fire, you can choose, oh, I'm a fucking idiot for that. Why did I do that? Now my hand is all, fucked up. No.
Well,
blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
the proliferation of suffering thereafter is totally endless and totally up to you. Absolutely.
Exactly, totally up to you. But also, so you're, again, this instantaneous, really fast interpretation of experience. So again, it's like, if I feel pain or any sensation, the breakup, it hurts. Okay, that's valuable data. But then am I adding on unnecessary suffering through my way of relating to that absence? So for instance, in a breakup, my partner leaves me. Now I'm sad and alone because I'm used to having them around. Is it actually that painful to be alone? Or is it the fact that I resist being alone, that I wish I wasn't alone, that hurts so bad? It's because what's the difference between, loneliness and solitude?
Yeah.
It's how we relate to those experiences.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, okay, yeah. An important part of this is like, in order to suffer something, you have to first know what it is. Man, I've gotten a lot of fights at Naropa about this. You have to first know what it is. So you have to look at it and make the distinction, that's that thing. And then you have to relate it to yourself. This is bad for me. And then you suffer. So it's like a multi-step conceptual process.
it happens.
It actually requires a lot of
Like
work
that.
to suffer. There's a lot of cognitive activity
Yep.
that goes into generating feelings of angst or depression or whatever.
It takes a lot to build those stories, those relationships, those interpretations that are so dark, and to hold them together, actually.
It's an active process that serves a function, and the function is survival. And you can stop doing that if you become conscious of what's going on. And become conscious means like experience. Oh, I'm calling that bad. I'm thinking it's a threat to me. I'm thinking that I am something that could be threatened by this situation. Once you see that you're doing that, then you can stop doing it. But it's actually, it's pretty fucking hard to see that you're doing that. And that's, I think, what keeps us suffering.
That's where Shinzen talks about, how essential meditation is, where because you can kind of slow down your experience and zoom in on it, where you can see how am I relating to this experience in a way that is amplifying my suffering, and do I want to choose to relate to my life like that? And so when you were saying that, there seems to be another path towards like real deep freedom from suffering, which is understanding from the Buddhist view, the emptiness of the self that is actually suffering. So who is the me that is in so much pain, you could say? And at first it seems conceptual, but really you have to ask, like, how much of our suffering is rooted in this conceptual narrative about me? It's my life, my trials and tribulations, my heartbreak, all of these things. What if we just swept the rug out underneath all of those painful stories and said, hey, this self that feels so real is actually an assumption. You have no proof. Yes, there are thoughts, there are feelings, there's colors, sounds, tastes, smells, all of it. But to say that there is a feeler of those sounds is actually an unfounded assumption. You can't say that. The mind just makes that leap. If there are thoughts, there must be someone thinking it. And my question is why? Who told you that? I mean, quite literally, who convinced you of that? Because it is just one story that if there is a thought, there must be a thinker. not necessarily, actually.
Yeah. I think even we could say that there is a thinker, there is a seer, but the nature of that seer and thinker and feeler, whatever, is we misunderstood that.
And what is the nature of that thinker feeler?
Nothing.
Boom. Emptiness, nothingness.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And that's
but we take it to be a fragile, in this case, a fragile male body with XYZ things going on.
So that's the thing. It's like, so what we are.
That's the misconception.
So this is taught in non-duality in Hinduism, in Buddhism. I'm assuming, I know mystical Judaism, Kabbalah, but also just referencing this nothingness, this void that is really what we are. And it's actually an illusion. It's smoke and mirrors that convinces us that we're anything other than that. We have these stories and this idea of self and all of these experiences we have had, I've had, that build this idea of who I am. But really, this is just an idea, a story, a narrative, and we try to protect that made up, constructed notion of who we are. I'm a winner. I'm a good person. And I'm whatever, insert, a certain quality here. Once we say I am like this, we have to protect that. And the funny thing is, we don't have to make any of those claims. We don't have to say we're a good person, a bad person, that we're rich or poor. Any of these labels, they're all just, again, smoke and mirrors, or mental conceptual labels, and all of that is wishy-washy. And what happens when you just really inquire into who am I? Beyond all of these thoughts, these narratives, these stories, who really am I? And if you follow that inquiry, personally, you'll come to this place of not even just saying nothingness. It's like unspeakable, actually. It's like void. And that's what you are. But we have this, Andrew Holacek talks about this identification with form. We only identify with form because how can we know anything else? And it reminds me of like how the Arabs, at least in the West, discovered the concept of zero. It seems completely absurd. Like, what do you mean? How is zero a thing? And it was hard for minds to comprehend zero first, because if there's anything, there's got to be at least one. And that's where we're stuck with our sense of identification. We think, oh, I must be here, or maybe my soul is somewhere in the sky, or maybe I'm from a different planet, or whatever. But no matter what we think, as long as we think, we are something, we're denying the formless. We're denying the void. And it seems to me like a yin and a yang kind of thing. As long as we forget that we are at least, half void and half form. If we forget the void part, then we're going to be afraid of things like death, the groundlessness of really entering that void, of the nothingness. But when we remember we're nothingness, we're actually free. Because what's in that void is infinity and eternity, the anything that could ever be. Because when everything is absent, you can fill that space with anything. So the phrase I use is really that the void is pregnant with infinity. And that's what we are. It's this, and this is where the logical mind starts to crumble and break down. And that's the thing. What happens when we identify with the formless is we recognize we're infinite. And does an infinite thing have anything to prove? Does it lack anything? Does it need anything? It is everything. So this is, using the conceptual mind to really come to this place of knowing, ground.
Well, an analogy came to mind of like when you find out that Santa Claus isn't real around age 16 or 17, like it was for me, then you don't worry about whether Santa's going to bring you gifts or if he'll get you what you wanted, type of thing, because there was never a Santa. And so when you see that you're the person that you are is very much like Santa Claus, it's like an idea that you're generating moment by moment. When you've really experienced that clearly, then you kind of stop worrying whether you'll get the gifts from self or or if it's going to be what the type of Christmas that you wanted, because it's just not even there.
Yeah.
It was your parents all along. Big man, the real big man in the clouds, always brings the gifts. Jah taketh away.
Jah giveth and Jah taketh.
Yeah.
And that's,
So
yeah.
and so
It's a great analogy.
to have that experience, you have to intend to have that experience usually.
Mm-hmm.
There could be some dudes like Eckhart Tolle type stuff where you just suffer so much and then your brain yourself breaks and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm free. Usually that doesn't happen, so you got to meditate a lot and contemplate, who am I? And when you do that who am I contemplation, you discover, oh, I'm actually nobody. I am awareness. And it takes some work, but that reduces so much suffering, because so much of our suffering is on behalf of or arises to serve the idea of the self.
It's like this notion that there is a self is like the foundation, and then we build more of these painful stories off that foundation.
Totally.
Right? So it's like if we just sweep the rug out, all of a sudden all the suffering just fades real quick.
Yeah. Well, and you can get agency of, like, there's certain types of suffering that I still like choose to take on, like my professional identity. Professionalism is an idea, maybe it's a principle or a concept, but if I veer from professionalism in the therapeutic context, I'm gonna suffer that.
Oh, for sure.
Consciously, I want to have pain about my shortcomings in that domain, because doing that is actually helpful to me in the long run.
Boom.
And but there are forms of suffering like being a like ill white dude, like that one. I'm not going to suffer that, because like there's no long term, there's choice, there's agency. Being a sick white dude is like not really gonna pan out for me. I mean, it's getting approval from my whatever roommate Ben.
Yeah.
Actually, I still will suffer that, guys. If I don't do the dishes,
that's valid.
I'll eat that.
Well, it's almost like, so I'm seeing the distinction between pain and suffering, and then I'm seeing the understanding that some amount of pain is kind of necessary. It's like you're hitting the bumpers in the bowling alley, and it kind of gets you back on track.
Yeah. Did I say when the supplements were slapping, I was like really seeing the bumpers analogy.
Oh no, you didn't say that.
So good, yeah.
Telepathy tapes, shout out.
Yeah.
This world is not what it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's an amount of pain that is necessary, and it's the fact that we resist pain, the necessary pain, where we suffer unnecessarily, because we resist this thing that is a message. It's like a mom that's like, hey, smacking you upside the head. Hey, don't do that. That's gonna hurt you.
Yeah. Okay. Like, my question right now is like, how do you stop doing that?
Practice.
Like let's say we're talking to a client here, and they're like, I know this is dumb. I know I don't really care about being a whatever thing, but I can't stop doing that. Like, I show up in a social situation and it still is causing me fear. How do you stop?
That's where something like I mean, it sounds cliche, but really like mindfulness, just to be aware of what's going on, because it's so easy to get in those situations and just be like, here it is again, but we don't even notice it's there. Like we notice it, but we don't have mindfulness about, oh, what is this? Oh, this is my social anxiety. Oh, why is this? And can I relate to this experience differently? Can I open myself a little bit to this feeling in the body so that I'm not resisting it as much? And so that's where the practice comes in, where it's like, okay, mindfulness, first to become aware of what's going on. And then I would say, is there a way that I am relating to this experience that is inducing more suffering than has to be here? And asking that question, how am I relating to this? Is this feeling in my body so unbearable that I need to, you know what I mean? Or can I just be with it? And this is where, I mean, sitting meditation, as much as people hate to do it, is a fucking time-tested technique to like really, relieve this unnecessary suffering, right?
Yeah.
Or you just eat a bunch of mushrooms.
Totally,
and see what happens.
Totally. I think there's so many different methods to alleviate suffering and to get in there and establish agency over your own feelings and thoughts. But what underpins all of the methods or what precedes them or what they come from is the intent to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And if your intent is strong, like I really want to stop suffering.
Yeah.
And I am going to stop suffering.
Boom.
That's the key. And then
I
mindfulness
actually agree.
is one of many tools or methodologies to attain that. But
Well said.
what really matters is like, I'm going to just stop doing this shit.
Seek and you will find kind of thing.
Yeah.
It really is like that. How
Yeah.
bad do you want it?
And I think that's the rub, is that a lot of people say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could stop being so miserable? Like, it would be nice. Like, I have this desire. But they don't actually intend to stop.
Yeah.
They don't actually set out to stop doing it. They just have a wish.
Totally.
Oh, man, it would be nice if I didn't wake up anxious every morning and go to sleep depressed or whatever.
But not, I'm going to figure this shit out.
I'm going to figure this out.
There's nothing's
to change.
Nothing's going to stop me.
That's
So
how
again,
you do it.
and this gets to a pretty cool concept too, which is how deeply is our mind constructing our experience? When if I say, oh, wouldn't it be nice, but I'm just depressed. I can't get out of this.
Yeah.
Maybe someday a light will shine on me and I'll just wake up. But okay, so are we limiting our own capacity to heal when we're like, no, I can't do that. Who am I? No, I can't not be anxious. I can't just wake up and love life.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
If you say that, then damn right. You know what I mean? And if you say, hey, I'm over this suffering bullshit and I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to live my life like this.
Yeah.
If you have that conviction and that real drive and that knowing that you don't have to just sit and cope with that, then things will happen. You'll investigate that with that intention and that vigor. You'll find out what the fuck is going on here. And maybe you need support from like a therapist, friends, whatever. Maybe you do psychedelics, maybe you do meditation, whatever floats your boat. There are tools around to investigate. It really is, how bad do you want it? And my understanding is once you come out of suffering, you get your head above water a little bit, you can continue to ask the question, oh, so I got out of that suffering, but also, am I going to limit myself here? Or how good now can I make my life? Again, from the inside out. I don't need to live into Western materialistic values as far as, big house, tons of free time, fancy car, smoking hot wife. Yeah, sure, okay, you could do that, but is that really what you want? And what actually makes a good life? Is it that shit, or is it the world that I am constructing inside my psyche that is then projected externally?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Sky's the limit, in my opinion. I'm gonna check how much battery my phone has right now. Oh, we're still going. Yeah, so I mean, this is freaking John, and
So good.
this is the first podcast we've done in a minute, and we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep doing podcasts. This is a good one though, actually. Worked out.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So
I'm trying to think if there's anything else before we close out here.
I mean, we can continue this conversation. I think, again,
Intent is the underlying principle
of creation of experience. And the question...
Like, if you want to stop suffering, the first thing is to truly identify what you want to stop.
Yeah.
Like, I want to not be anxious.
Yeah.
I want to not be afraid. And then, you might have to sacrifice some aspects of yourself to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the price that you have to pay.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to stop being anxious, maybe I have to give up the notion that I'm this type of dude.
That I'm perfect.
Yeah, something like that.
I have to stop trying to be perfect, and all of a sudden, oh, wait.
And be real with yourself. Like, maybe you'd rather hold on to the perfection ideal.
Yeah.
And be anxious on behalf of that, agenda.
And that's okay if you
Yeah.
want, but it's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
If you want to cling to that perfection or ideal and suffer through the anxiety,
Yeah.
and maybe that has a purpose, maybe that is driving you to be better, and sure, but it's like if you're over that,
Yeah.
you don't have to.
I think that's what gets a lot of people stuck, is that they're actually not over it.
Yeah, well,
They
maybe,
actually do like, in some way, that the form of suffering that they're engaging,
Well-
or feel that it's totally necessary.
Well, exactly. Maybe they believe if this anxiety is not here, I mean, this goes to IFS therapy, right? If this anxious part of me is not taking me over and just fucking my life up and driving me to go, 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 then I'm going to be a failure. Then those exiled parts, the failure, worthless, less than parts, are going to be triggered. And maybe that's going to be too overwhelming for the system and you'll fall into hopeless depression, whatever. So really, maybe that anxiety is kind of protecting you.
Yeah.
But from the IFS lens, internal family systems, basically just by relating to those parts, the anxious part in a certain way, asking, what do you really want from me? Oh, you want to protect me. And what does that worthless part want me to feel?
Right.
Just again, because if we just sit with the feeling of worthlessness, lack, inferiority, they're just feelings. And I'm saying that people are like, oh, but feelings are important. Emotions are huge. Yes, they are, but they come and they go like everything else. And they're just feelings. There's nothing we inherently have to run from. And the more we push them away and stuff them in a closet, the louder they're going to get.
God.
So open that heart to the pain, the suffering, the lack.
Open the heart and be willing to die about it.
Be willing to, ooh.
Like Buddha.
For real though.
Buddha said something, I might be misquoting, might not be Buddha, but he was like, I'm gonna crush my head on this rock.
Keep going.
Until I get this. Like,
it sounds like a Buddha quote.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a mountain, but he was like, if that's what it takes to get free, that's what I'm doing.
You gotta want it that bad.
You gotta want it that bad. I'm gonna smash your fucking head on a rock.
But you don't have to do that. You just have to really.
No, you don't have to do that.
Go into deep emotional pain or whatever.
Yeah. In order to get free, sometimes you have to really look at yourself in a way that's painful to do and let go of aspects of yourself that are so familiar and so lifelong that it feels like, this is me. I can't get rid of this. Exactly. But it's not you. And it's not serving you like your conscious mission. It's serving an unconscious drive to maintain something that you made when you were 4 years old. Again,
that at one level is built off a fabricated notion, an empty, constructed notion of who we are, who we think we are.
Right.
Which is unnecessary.
And fabricated by who? A toddler.
Yeah.
And it's motivated by fear, and it's so understandable, and compassion, love. This 4-year-old just wanted to survive. He just wanted to get that milk, bro. But
get that milk.
But you're not 4 anymore, and so you can let that go, even though it feels like you can't.
Yeah. But that's the thing.
But you have to try. It's like take a scientific disposition.
The holding on is the hard part, but it takes so much of that trust and courage to really let go into the groundlessness of not knowing what's next. If I let go of this anxiety, what'll happen?
Exactly.
We don't know.
Exactly.
But we can keep holding on or we can let go.
Yeah.
And that's where pain can be such a messenger and a teacher. Hey, this hurts really bad. Great. Figure out a way to let this go.
Right.
And you enter into that groundlessness. And again, this is the crux of Buddhism, basically, is understanding groundlessness. And at first we relate to it and we're afraid, but then we'll realize we can let go into this groundlessness of not needing a fixed identity, not needing to be perfect, not needing to be whatever, and just be chill with free fall. And it reminds me of the Chogyam Trungpa quote, Tibetan teacher, who said, the bad news is that we're all in free fall without a parachute. And the good news is that there is no ground. So we're all falling. There's nothing to hold on to, nothing real at least, beyond the wishy-washy conceptual mind. And we can just let go and be comfortable falling.
Yep, pretty much that. We're gonna die.
And that's the thing too. So the way I put it is like, it's kind of like you walk outside after you've been in a cave for a century, and it burns your fucking eyes because it's so bright. All the freedom of groundlessness, not clinging to any identity or whatever. At first it's painful. You're like, and then all of a sudden just stay there. Don't try to create any solidity again. Just keep floating, and the eyes adjust. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is clearly the place to be. I'm not going back in that fucking cave. But it takes pain. It takes seeing where there is all of this painful, solidified, contracted knots in the psyche, let it come up so that we can open to them and start to loosen those really unnecessary knots in the psyche that are causing us suffering. So that seems like a good place to end it. Hell yeah, brother. All right. Well, this is, I forget the name of my podcast, but Duff's podcast, and this is John.
It's not Dharma Duff.
It might be Dharma Duff, but we don't know for sure.
That channel only had baby videos. Hey guys, remember, like and subscribe. And
Follow whatever this channel is.
yeah, follow it.